Hey guys, it's Max here. In this video, I'm going to be talking to you about the federal solar tax credit. Now I know that sounds boring and dry, and it is, frankly, but we get this question all the time, and it's really important if you're considering anything to do with solar. So I'm going to do my best in this video to talk through kind of the main points, the most important points, the stuff that I think you should know about, and you're probably researching if you're finding this video in the first place. I'm also going to timestamp the bottom of the video so you can hop through to the questions that you want to know more about. So right off the hop, I'm not an accountant and I don't work for the government. What I did do in preparation for this video was go to the official website of the US Department of Energy and read up there. I'm also going to link all the articles below here that I've used to find the information. So if you want to go digging yourself or find more in-depth information, I'm going to link that below for you. In August of 2022, Congress passed an extension on the federal solar tax credit. In 2022, if you were considering going solar, you would only be expecting to get 26% back on your federal tax credit. In August of 2022, what has happened is that from 26%, it's gone back up to 30%, and that has been protected all the way until 2033. So basically, they've extended the tax credit 10 years and raised it from the 26% in 2022 up to 30%. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what that actually means. The first thing to answer is, what is a tax credit? A tax credit is a dollar-for-dollar reduction or a one-to-one reduction in the amount of tax you would have otherwise had to pay. So for example, if you're claiming a $1,000 federal tax credit, that means your federal income tax that you owe goes down by $1,000. Also, something to note is the federal tax credit is sometimes referred to as the investment tax credit, the ITC. So whenever you're reading articles online and they're mentioning the ITC, that's all they mean. It's the federal tax credit. I want to quickly explain how to calculate your solar tax credit based on the system that you end up getting. Let's say you're buying a $10,000 solar system. So $10,000 times 0.3 equals $3,000. That means in reality, the system is actually only costing you $7,000. 30% of that system is going to be reduced from your federal taxes. This works the exact same way for larger systems. Let's say you order a $50,000 system. 30% of $50,000 is $15,000. You can see the math works no matter how big or small of a system you end up getting. One thing you need to be clear on though is that you're not getting a $15,000 check. That's not how this works. Let's say you ordered a $50,000 system. So you're getting a tax credit of $15,000. Let's say that the tax you owed was $20,000. Now, with your tax credit, rather than having to pay $20,000, you'll only have to pay $5,000 because you'll take the $15,000 off of that total. It's an important distinction because I've heard customers on the phone tell me that they've had solar salespeople come up and say that they can use that money towards their house or a car payment. This is not coming back in the form of a check. This is coming off of the tax that you owe. One last thing to touch on, let's say you have a $15,000 tax credit. If you only owe $7,500, then the remainder carries on to the next year. So if you only owe $7,500 of tax, but you got a $15,000 tax credit, that means next year you have another $7,500 to use towards your taxes that year, and so on and so forth. So it's not just wasted in one year, you can carry it over to the next. Now we're going to talk about how to qualify for the solar tax credit. And there's 4 things that you need to keep in mind here. Number 1, your system needs to be installed between January 1st, 2017 and December 31st, 2034. Number 2, the solar system is installed at a residence of yours in the United States. What's important here is it doesn't have to be your main residence, it has to be a residence of yours located in the United States. Number 3, you need to own the full system. So what that means is you need to have purchased it either outright with cash or be financing the system. And number 4, the system is brand new and being used for the first time. So that means you're going to want to buy the system from a reputable company, keep all of your receipts as well so you can show that it actually is a brand new system that's being used for the first time. Now that we know how to qualify for the solar tax credit, let's talk about what you can actually get covered with this credit. So the first thing that can get covered with the tax credit are actual solar panels. Those are called PV panels. So any solar panels that you buy for your system, those are covered under the solar tax credit. Number 2, contractor labor or installation costs. This includes permitting, inspection, and development costs as well. 3, they refer to this as balance of system equipment. What that really means though is like wiring, inverters, racking, all those parts and pieces that are other than the solar panels and the battery. Number 4, they're calling this energy storage devices, but what that actually means is batteries. So battery-based systems are covered under the solar tax credit, but importantly here, it needs to be at least a 3 kilowatt hour battery. This is great because battery-based systems are becoming super important and super popular. With all the power outages nowadays and the crazy storms, everybody wants a battery-based system. So yes, it's good to go. Your battery is covered. It just needs to be at least 3 kilowatt hours. Number 5, they're saying sales tax on eligible expenses. So basically everything from 1 through 4, any sales tax that you have on that is also covered by the solar tax credit. So to wrap this all up and put it into context here, from panels to wiring and inverters and racking to batteries, the entire system, even the labor costs, from permitting to contractor fees to developer fees, it's all covered. Even the sales tax on all of those services is covered under the solar tax credit. So they really are incentivizing people here to be going solar as much as possible. Now, let's cover some of the most common questions that we get asked every single day. People want to know, what if they're not the homeowner? What if you're a renter? What if you're part of a condo? Can you still qualify for the tax credit? So the answer is yes, on a couple of conditions. Let's say you're in a condo, you can still qualify for the tax credit as long as you have actually contributed to the solar system. In this scenario, let's say your condo building, everybody agrees to put on a solar system. If you have contributed $1,000 to that solar system, then that is the exact amount that you're eligible for your solar tax credit. The important thing here though is you need to actually contribute to it. So if you're a renter, for example, and your landlord puts on a solar system to the house, unless you contributed to that, you can't qualify. Just because you're in a building that gets a new solar system installed on it, you can't qualify, you actually need to contribute to it. Another question we get asked all the time is, what if I install a solar system on my vacation home or a secondary property? The answer is yes. The solar system doesn't necessarily need to be installed on your main residence, just needs to be installed on a residence that you own in the United States. The important thing here is they're trying to incentivize renewable energy and solar power, so main residence, vacation residence, that doesn't matter as much. They just want people to go solar and battery-based systems as well. And so yes, your vacation home, your second home, that qualifies. Another question people ask all the time is, what if I'm not connected to the grid? Do I still qualify for the solar tax credit? The answer is yes. You will still qualify with an off-grid system. As long as the system is generating electricity for use at your residence, it's going to qualify. So for all you off-gridders out there or people wanting to take your current home off-grid, no problem, you're still going to qualify for the solar tax credit. Another question we get asked is, what if the solar panels aren't installed on my roof? Do I still qualify for the solar tax credit? The answer is yes. The solar panels do not need to be installed on your roof. As long as they're generating power for the residents, it's going to qualify. So ground mount systems, that's no problem. As long as the panels are generating power for the residents, it's going to qualify. Another common question people have is, what if I've financed my system? I haven't paid for it up front, will I still qualify? The answer is yes, you will still qualify even if you're financing the system. However, the important thing to note here is stuff like interest owing on your financing, that isn't going to be covered. Extended warranties, those type of things aren't going to be covered. Financing a solar system though, that's no sweat, you're still going to be fully covered under the solar tax credit. Another thing that people wonder is, what if my solar tax credit exceeds my tax liability? Will I get a refund? The answer to that is no. This is a non-refundable tax credit. So if the solar tax credit is more than the federal tax that you owe, you're not going to get paid for the difference there. That's not how it works. You're not going to get money back. It just goes against the federal tax that you actually owe. So the last thing to touch on, I guess, is how to actually claim the federal tax credit. So this is where I say, I'm not an accountant. Go speak with an accountant or a tax professional. However, once you know that you are actually eligible for the tax credit, the form you need to complete is an IRS form 5695. And then you attach that to your federal tax return form. I'm going to include links to the actual form as well as instructions on how to do that below as well. Well, that wraps up the video. I'm trying to keep this as close to 10 minutes as possible. I hope you found that useful. I tried to answer some of the main questions that we get every single day. I've also mentioned I'm going to throw a bunch of links into the description so that you can read through on your own time and get more information if you need it. You can also reach out to shopsolarkits.com for questions here, or if you want advice on a solar kit that's going to work for you.